You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and fansided.com, where we discuss all things Toronto Blue Jays baseball. We'll talk about news, rumors, and game recaps. So whether you're a diehard fan or just getting started with the team, this is the podcast for you. Here's your host, Craig Borden, with co-hosts Jason Lyons and me, Ken Alfred. You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast.
Good evening, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to the wonderful new level of excellence that is here on Jay Bird Watching. I am your host, Craig Boren. I am with Jason Lyons and Eric Troyton tonight. How are we doing, fellas?
Super duper, Alice Cooper.
Oh, love Alice. Eric, how are you doing? The editor of Jays Journal joining us and donning us with his presence this evening.
Yep. Happy to be back, guys.
Good to have you as always. It's been a few weeks since you've been on, but It's funny enough. I think the last time you were on this show, spring training games had not started yet.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
So nothing's happened since then.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing crazy at all. So we're going to talk tonight Blue Jays baseball as part of the Fanside Network, part of jaysjournal.com, and we're going to talk the level of excellence this evening, which is going to have a all new entrant on August 12th, I believe is the game that they're going to be having. They're going to be giving away bobbleheads. It's going to be a wonderful evening for Jose Bautista is flipping his way onto the thing. Eric, well-deserved, I think, here with Jose Bautista actually making the level of excellence. I'm not shocked that in a year where we're trying to hurry up and get more people in the seats at the next level that this is happening. But I think this is a good thing for Blue Jays fans to get, like I said, a recent Blue Jays great up onto the level of excellence.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely love it. He would have been my number one pick, too, for it. So I'm all for it. I can't think of a guy that's more deserving. One of the best power hitters to ever play for the Blue Jays. And, like you said, a recent name up there for some of the younger crowd that they're trying to draw. And, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Jason, what was your initial reaction to seeing this? And, did you do your own personal bat flip in your living room? Or what was up?
I really agree with Eric here. I feel like what they're going to try and do with this portion of the stadium is they are going to try and hit on some Jays that are recognized from sort of, 15-year-olds to 50-year-olds. They're going to try and get, and Jose Bautista is probably, if it's not Joe Carter, it's him going in, but Joe Carter is I think is a different level. I think this gives some appreciation for guys where you don't have to necessarily, retire a jersey or anything like that. I think it gives opportunity for, even some guys that maybe didn't, play long-term with the Jays or had a big impact, but weren't there for a long time. It gives opportunity for stuff like that. I think it's a great idea. I thoroughly enjoy Jose Bautista. I had nothing but time for that guy. I feel like just that whole storyline and everything with him and Odor and all. It's like a baseball lore. Like you can't write that stuff. It doesn't come along a lot. And, congratulations to him. And I think it's a great move by the Jays.
It's interesting you bring up all the lore and all that stuff. That's baseball history now. That is not going anywhere anytime soon. The Rundo Odor nonsense and on both avenues, the punch, the running in from third base on the weirdest play in recent playoff baseball history, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously the epic bat flip that easily ranks in the high end of Major League Baseball home runs, not just Blue Jays history, but all of Major League history. Argument can be made that is just as important as the Joe Carter home run, but there's only 2 World Series walk-off winning home runs. I'm sorry to say, Jose, you missed that one. You're close, but you didn't quite make it.
Also, I don't know if you guys remember or not, it probably produced the greatest sign to ever be shown at a game, which was I'd rather get punched out in I'd rather get punched out in June than knocked out in October. Yes, classic, so good,
perfect, and that is about the epitome of those 2 seasons with the Blue Jays knocking the Rangers out of both of those playoff series and moving on to the next rounds and whatnot. So, very very cool stuff. Eric, I'm going to be this person. Tell me your story of where you were for the bat flip.
It was nothing fancy, man. I was just sitting on the couch at home watching it, and I wish I had a cooler story to go along with it, but unfortunately, that's all I got. This isn't one of those things where I was doing anything memorable for that.
But you remember where you were on the couch. There's probably an exact quadrant of the couch you were in.
Left corner.
The butt groove is still preserved and everything. Jason, how about yourself? Do you remember where you were for the epic bat flip heard around the world?
Yes, I actually do. I was at the North Shore Winter Club. The boys had played a spring hockey game earlier that day, and we had decided to stay and watch the game there. And I remember the amount of people there growing slowly, and no one at a hockey-based building wants to admit they're a huge baseball fan. But as the the lounge kept filling up with people, you're like, well, you guys are all baseball fans, or you're just, fans of exciting baseball, maybe. And ironically, you brought up the Joe Carter one. The Joe Carter one, this is one of my favorite stories ever. So again, hockey. So I was actually playing in a senior men's hockey game. I was on the ice, and someone came out and banged on the glass and said that it's the ninth inning, and we got literally, guys went off. We stopped the game. We took our skates off and went up into the bar. And I remember as soon as it got hit, somebody dumped a pitcher of beer over my head, and so I had to go back on the ice. I smelled like, you can't even describe that smell. But I did get a goal in the front of the net. I think that was because no one wanted to touch me.
Yeah. So. He reeks of sweat and Molson Triple X, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Labatt Dry.
No, even worse. So I think it's funny you mentioned the bat flip thing. Is my mom made me go to bed, and my dad, being the awesome person is, Ricky Henderson just got walked, comes and gets me from my bed with my brother and brings me back to watch the rest of the game. And then obviously we woke my mother up. But the bat flip night, I had to choose between my two favorite things on the planet, fellas. And that is rock and roll music of seeing Motley Crue and Alice Cooper in Buffalo that same evening, or sitting at the bar down the street from the venue where I was seeing Motley Crue and Alice and watching the rest of this game. And the point where we had to go to the concert was right after Russell Martin hit Sin Shu's bat with the ball and then waited, 60 minutes before play finally resumed. That was where I had to go to the concert. So I turned off my cell phone. Mind you, that was the first year I had written for jaysjournal.com at this point. So I knew if I had my phone on, I was going to get littered with whatever. So I went on full media blackout, made my wife turn off her phone, everything. So we watched the show, drove back home from Buffalo to Rochester. It's about 1 in the goddamn morning. I turn on the DVR, start watching it, and about at 1:30 in the evening, flip the coffee table over and start running around the house like a freaking crazy person. It woke my kids up, my wife, everybody. Just saying.
Awesome.
The media blackout worked. So, but as far as statistics go, it wasn't just the bat flip. Everybody thinks the bat flip that was the peak of everything and probably the start of the decline at that point. If not, it already started. That was just the perfect Jose Bautista moment. But guys, just missed his 300 career home runs with the Blue Jays at 288, 766 RBIs, and something I thought that was a little sneaky, snuck in 56 stolen bases in that time while batting 253. He was the epitome of run producer for the Blue Jays, and for that 10-year run, while he was a Blue Jay, he was one of the biggest offensive forces in Major League Baseball. There's no reason in hell he shouldn't be on the level of excellence, because as you talk about Blue Jays record books, he's got the single season home run record, and so on and so forth. He's right at the top of that. Eric, as far as these moments go, how many accolades could you rack up and not be as good as Jose Bautista? I guess it's slightly ridiculous what he did as a Blue Jay Angry Bird definition uniform.
Yeah, no, I am definitely in agreement with you there. Something else he was able to do that I always think means you are an exceptional ball player is when you draw more walks than strikeouts. He did that. It looks like I can see 2 immediately. In 2011, he drew 132 walks, which is just insane. Those are like Barry Bonds numbers. And, his OPS plus as a Blue Jay is 136. That means over that 10-year span, he was 36% above league average as a Blue Jay. So the man did everything. As I said, I can't possibly think of someone that belongs up there more than he did.
Yeah. 6 All-Star appearances, was constantly in the MVP race those years, especially the year he hit 54 home runs, which ironically he was the lowest in those years of MVP voting in that year because, his batting average wasn't so hot. I don't care. You hit 54 home runs. And then he follows that up with an amazing year after the Blue Jays rewarded him with a contract that following year and didn't hit as many home runs, but was a complete baseball player, offense, defense, everything. And then that's how we got to know Jose Bautista and through the 2016 season. And his career as a reliever didn't quite pan out, but he did pretty damn good as an offensive right fielder, just saying.
Yeah,
Jason?
I mean, it's one of those things when I think back to sort of like the perennial guys that I consider to be Blue Jays. Like sometimes I have, you don't realize how long somebody was with a team. Like for you to say 10 years, I actually flipped over to go look because I didn't believe you for a second.
You thought I was full of shit, right?
I saw what his stats were in Pittsburgh. Oh my God, that's awful. So he won't be going to the Ring of Excellence in Pittsburgh. Let's let that know. But yeah, I mean, there's certain guys that we associate with the Jays. Like, I mean, Ken's out sick, and I mean, he's got Kelly Gruber, and all you have to do is say the name. You don't think of any other team. Jose Bautista. You don't think of any other team. And it's awesome to see some of this. Like my kids are 11. They obviously know what the bat flip is. I mean, it's they love bat flips, and so if you ever have a countdown, it's always number one. But that being said, it's one of those things where you start to associate things to a time where in some cases they weren't even around, or just very little drive to want to be a part of that, and now they really do, and so we can go back and share these moments. I played the Joe Carter home run the other night. It came up. And they both were riveted by it. Like, I mean, it's amazing to watch a piece of history like that and have just certain guys in, whether they're in my brain or everyone else's brain, that are they're just Jays. They always will be.
Yeah. And the funny thing is too, as much as I think of that, the Angry Bird logo, I epitomize that with Roy Halladay, Joe Carter, or not Joe Carter. I mean, Roy Halladay, Carlos Delgado was the guy I had in my head. So in reality, the best seasons that Jose Bautista had was in that uniform. And that's one of those names that pops into me as soon as I see that logo on anything, whether it's the black jerseys, the hats, whatever it might be. That's what pops into my brain. But the fact that, the bat flip is, like I said, one of the greatest moments in MLB history, let alone Canadian baseball and Toronto Blue Jays history. And then seeing that properly and perfectly enshrined in what is going to be an awesome bobblehead giveaway. You guys have seen this. Yeah. I'm assuming at this point.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Just for the fans that happen to be watching live on the show this evening, I'm going to make sure that I share this out, and so that you can all take a peek and see what if you haven't had the pleasure of seeing it.
It's so cool.
This is awesome.
So cool.
It's super simple. It's nothing crazy, but it epitomizes swagger in a bobblehead. That's really what it was. It's like I attributed the start of bat flips to Carlos Delgado in his 4 home run game. He hits that 4th home run against the Rays, and they just go, don't need this anymore, and gets running with that. It was the exact same thing with this Jose Bautista home run. After all that emotion and everything that happened in the inning prior with the Rundo door running in for third and the weirdest of baseball moments, them losing the lead, a few errors lead to this epic home run, and just going, boom, I'm done with this. Sign here.
My favorite part of the clip, and if you watch it again, I mean, when he hits it, he knows it's gone, but you can see for a second, you can see him look, and he's like, is this for real? Like he kind of takes a moment
Didn't believe it.
and just look at the field like, did it go? Like, did I just do that? And then he chucks the bat so emphatically. Now, I know we're focused on this, but I'd be very interested to hear what your guys, other than this one, what your favorite bat flips are. I have one that I really like, but
I threw my favorite one out there, and that is the Carlos Delgado. Like I said, he just gets that fourth home run and just goes, throws it back toward the dugout. I'm done with this. That's right. I'm the king. Walks to first base. Eric?
So
he put you on the spot.
No, yeah, it's okay. Bautista's is definitely number one, but I think the second one, my second favorite bat flip of all time that I can immediately think of is not even a Blue Jays one. It was Tim Anderson of the Chicago White Sox at the Iowa Field of Dreams game.
Yeah, that was cool.
His was a walk-off home run too, and it was just awesome. That when I think bat flip, Joey Bats is number one, but I think Tim Anderson is definitely up there. His was pretty cool as well.
Either way, all three of those guys that we just mentioned, swagger level, it's all the way up.
Yeah. I think my favorite is Yassi Puig's from what was that, 2018, where
that was a fun one.
Demolished that ball, and it was he looked like a 6-year-old kid that hit a home run. It was awesome. Just loved it so much.
Yeah. I got to play one more here just to be this guy as far as Blue Jay ones go. That Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Grand Slam where he just takes the bat and just goes, bam, and spikes it down into the ground. That was pretty good. It was different. It was a bat flip. It was a bat spike. Yeah. So, good stuff. So, anyways, is there anything anybody would like to mention as far as Jose Bautista goes before we move on to obvious Toronto Blue Jays spring training fun?
Before we move on, let me just say that Edwin Encarnacion needs to be the next one. That's what I have to say because, I feel like those two were just, 1 and 2 for so many years. Honestly, I think Edwin's kind of, overlooked. Everyone was so caught up in the Jose Bautista craze that, Edwin was kind of, just, his
silently there doing his deal the whole time, right?
But he needs to be the next one.
Yeah. I just hope that they put a little time. It doesn't have to be completely visible at all moments or angles or anything, but they put like a little freaking parrot somewhere on his level of excellence.
You have to get that going. Yeah.
They should just go where's Waldo and hide one in the stadium, and whoever finds it, they take a picture of it and go up to guest services, and you get like a little parrot yourself or something. I don't know.
That would be hysterical. Or get one of the leftover shirts that they gave away with the actual parrot sleeve the one year. So things like that. I do think that would be really funny because we've talked about it on this show a few times that culture. Blue Jays have a great culture and great fan base, and I forget what we saw in the chat group right before, Eric, but there was some saying that we're like the best cult following of a baseball team, but we're also the nicest somehow.
Yeah, I think from what I can remember, the Blue Jays were ranked as Blue Jays fans are ranked as the 5th least annoying.
That's what.
I'm pretty sure Yankees were number 1, believe it or not.
Why does that not shock me? And I would assume the Red Sox are not terribly that far behind.
I think they're second. I'm pretty sure they were second.
And then, because, there's literally killings between Dodgers and Giants fans, I would think that might be part of it. Yeah, I can see where the rankings are going to where we're near the bottom, just saying. So we only got the sign that Jason alluded to earlier about getting punched in August and winning in July or winning in October instead. So things like that. But I do agree with you that Edwin needs to be the next guy. And there is just so many reasons why. You talk about where Jose's accolades go and where Edwin's go, they're pretty much parallel, identical. And I might say that Edwin even has a little edge because his batting average wasn't 250 every year.
Yeah.
But that's also the difference between a fielder and a DH too. So I'll give you a 50-50.
That's true. That's true. So I looked, and Bautista had a 10-year career in Toronto. Edwin's was 8. And they had the same OPS plus. They both were 36% better than league average. So they were pretty comparable. I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I think Bautista was kind of a more complete hitter, especially with like his gap power and all that. But I think
Walks
Edwin,
and
and Edwin was just straight oomph. Like he had such a pretty swing. They both did, but I think if Bautista's getting up there, Edwin has to be right behind him.
not to mention as far as epic home runs go, Edwin's
he had one too.
Ubaldo Jimenez home run in the wild card game.
Yep,
that one.
Pretty epic.
Yeah.
Just saying. There's another interesting carryover in there too, as far as things go. Both these guys weren't wanted by so many Major League Baseball teams for years. Jose was definitely more exposed on that idea, I'd say. Yes, well-traveled, but everybody forgets that Edwin was waived by the Blue Jays the year he kicked off.
Yeah, the Blue Jays cut him at one point.
Yeah. I think he was technically, was it a Brewer?
Oakland A's. Oh, before Blue Jays, he was on the Reds.
Yes, I knew that. He was the throw-in guy for Scott Rowland. Just saying.
Yeah, and then when the Blue Jays cut him, the A's either did sign him or were going to sign him, and he ended up coming back to Toronto.
Yeah, it was like a revert or whatever it was. I don't think it was a Rule 5 pick. I think it literally was a waive. But whatever the reasons were, that time of the year, it was the Blue Jays could get him back if they wanted him. He gets back and he turns into Ed Wing instead of just Ed Win. So, but same thing with Jose Bautista. Like you said, plethora of teams all over the place. Originally drafted by the Yankees, I think.
Edwin?
Jose was.
I thought Bautista was either Pittsburgh or Baltimore.
Baltimore was, I think you're right.
Real quick on Edwin, he was waived at the end of the season. The Oakland A's claimed him, and then a month later they non-tendered him, so he was only on the team for a month. But it was the offseason, so.
And then the Blue Jays picked him back up, and end of story. And now he's technically a Blue Jays coach again, so strangely okay with that one as well.
Yeah, Bautista was drafted by the Pirates in the 2000 MLB draft.
Yeah, and then literally was on every team in Major League Baseball over the first how many years?
Yeah, let's see. It was Orioles, Rays,
he
Royals.
Came back to the Pirates.
Yeah, so his career, it's Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and then Toronto. And then 3 NL East teams, Atlanta, New York, and Philly.
Yep. Got his way around. And to that point, I was shocked those last 3 years that he didn't find something to be contributive on those, because the bat speed was still there. He just didn't. It's like he lost the eye at the plate or something.
Yeah, I mean, the batting average wasn't there, but I love OPS plus, and in 2018 he was above league average for the Mets and the Phillies. The batting average was pretty scary looking, but I mean, we're in a day and age where batting average is kind of not the most important anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is in an era with full shifting. Just saying. Jose Bautista played his whole career with the Blue Jays and nothing but crazy Tampa Bay Rays shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to give you an idea of how long he had been around, he played for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, not just the Tampa Bay Rays.
They're bringing those jerseys back this year, I heard.
Yeah, I think
that's their throwback jersey this year.
It's a good jersey.
The weird neon and everything.
Yeah, I approve.
Yeah.
So, all righty. So, outside of Edwin, is there anybody from those years that you think deserves to be on the level of excellence per the conversation that we started down here a little bit?
Well,
do you think Josh Donaldson gets on?
How long do you have? Like, I mean,
you're going to go full on like J Happ level with me on.
No. I mean, like there's guys like John Olerud, and there's guys like like Rance Mulliniks, Garth Org, like guys like that.
This year, 2015, 2016 era, like the playoff years. No, do you?
Yeah, no. I'm going to say
I
no.
agree with you that
nobody else
on that level before you get Donaldson or anything like that. Because Olerud's still one of my personal favorite Blue Jays of all times. He just has one of the best left-handed swings that's been a Toronto Blue Jay, in my opinion. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only other guy I can think of maybe was, no, I was going to say Stroman, but no.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I think you have to do it for long enough to like earn that. And I would even say someone like Donaldson didn't do it for long enough to warrant a spot up there. I don't think there's anybody up there or anybody from that era.
Yeah. You can have some kind of a thing in the ballpark, but not level of excellence kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
That's the thing that honestly kills me about the Blue Jays ballpark as much as the things go. They don't show a lot of that, like I said, the culture things, the fandom things. Have a few statues. Have the freaking, a couple of Josh Donaldsons doing the slide in the first base, like statues out front. Have the Joe Carter walk-off home run statue out around the ballpark. And now that they own the ballpark and they own all these things, I'm wondering if that's parts of these planned renovations that they have, because I'm just going to be this person. Those are wonderful, easy things to pick up and move to a new ballpark after you're talking about this whole thing. So statues are easy to move, not the wonderful neighborhoods we're talking about right now for the new ballpark. I am looking forward to visiting those new neighborhoods, though. Just saying, I like to drink beer, and now it's like I have 6 beers, or 6 bars I can go to. All right. So let's talk spring training, fellas. There is plenty of things going on and a lot of things that are heading in the right direction. And there's one piece I want to talk about that's not Toronto Blue Jays news per se, but it is quasi and helpful to the Toronto Blue Jays. Have either of you seen how many weird injuries that the New York Yankees have going on currently? Because they announced Carlos Rodon is going to start on the IL to start the season today, along with Luis Trevino. And I believe there was a third gentleman that's going to be on that list too.
Yeah, Tommy Kahnle. I actually wrote a piece on that today. So yeah.
Would be why I'm doing my research and hitting you with it.
Yeah, no, it was Rodon, Trevino, Kahnle, and then they're joining just a whole list of guys. They have, I think it was 2 that are recovering from Tommy John. Then they got one of their catchers had shoulder surgery. Frankie Montas had shoulder surgery.
Frankie Montas is gone for the year from all accounts at this point too. So there's some, like I said, if you're a Yankee fan, there's some things that are making the beginning of your season not exactly very comfy at the moment.
Yeah, we'll take it, right?
Yeah, Juan Carlos Stanton hit his first home run.
And Judge only hit his first home run like the other night too. So
and they're striking out at an unbelievable clip. Have you guys seen any of the highlights? Holy,
yeah, I mean,
it's not strike out a lot to begin with, but it's looking like it got worse.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's spring training.
Yeah, I mean, they're just a lineup that strikes out a lot, but they're also gonna, find other ways to beat you. They have just unbelievable power, and the crappy thing for Blue Jays fans is that all these injuries are adding up for the Yankees, but they are still stacked. So they lose 2 rotation pieces, and they're able to fill that in with guys that are maybe not quite as good, but good enough to be a contending team. And plus, it doesn't help that all these injuries are to the pitching staff and there's none to the offense. I would never wish anything on any of their hitters, but they still have Aaron Judge and Stanton and Rizzo and LeMahieu, so you can take away the pitching all you want, but if they keep storing 10 runs a game, then
yeah. And that's not even counting the fact that they still got guys like Anthony Volpe and whatnot in their minor league system that are the next Derek Jeter. I'll believe it when I see it, because the other part of that whole thing is I just think it's ironic they're comparing Volpe to minor league Derek Jeter, because everybody hated minor league Derek Jeter. I don't know if anybody remembers this wonderful history tidbit, but everybody was like, oh, what is with this Derek Jeter guy? He can't hit his way on the brown paper bag. And then he hits the major leagues and becomes the captain. It was notorious to the fact that they were miscounting him the whole minor leagues, and that's what happens with prospects. But I'm wondering if that talk is going to have the inverse for Volpe and some of those guys that are in that minor league system. But these are all things that, to your point, Eric, they have plenty of depth. And that's the question is, are they still a 90-win team with that depth, or are they wild card teams at this point? That would be my question.
I think the Blue Jays got lucky with some of these injuries that are happening, but I am not convinced that this takes the Yankees out of the hunt. I still think it's going to be Toronto and New York neck and neck for the majority of the year, and you can never ever count out the Rays because they always just find a way. Even they've put together some exceptional seasons with rosters that are not all that sexy. So I mean, they just know how to do it. And it's just the fact of the matter is that the whole division is pretty good. I think the Red Sox could end up surprising people. I think the Orioles could end up surprising people just like they did last year.
Yep.
So I mean, there is a universe where all 5 teams do well this year, but
and with the schedule, that's perfectly feasible.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that it's New York or Toronto for the number 1 seed. So
yeah, I mean the Yankees are such an interesting duck because I feel like, you know, if they start to lose, and we're starting to get into the dog days of summer a little bit, they've got so much money that they can will a lot of their problems away by just buying it. You know, and like
trade deadline, take over however much money kind of thing is where you're going.
Yeah. But I mean, they've also, you know, they do have a very good, you know, they have a very good farm system. They have lots of talent down there. I'm right on board with you with this, Eric. Like, I mean, I think it is going to be an absolute dogfight this whole season. I think that the American League East is going to be one of the most entertaining divisions to play baseball in a long time.
Just like it has been.
Yeah, I think it's going to be even more exciting this year. I think that every one of those teams has a legit shot. You know, you could throw all of them in a blender, and whatever comes out has a decent chance of happening. No matter where.
Damn the algorithms! It's a complete crapshoot.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, you know, I'm with you. The Yankees would have to get pretty thin before I would start to, you know, think that they weren't sort of 1 or 2 in the division for sure.
Yeah, you know, I had a couple more points. I forgot to mention that the Yankees center fielder Harrison Bader also left today's game with an injury. So, I mean, okay, so once the Yankees start having to tap into some of the depth at the position player side, that is where I think they're going to get screwed.
That's where it gets threatening.
Yeah, they have the middle infielders, and it's funny because even if, you know, Anthony Volpe doesn't work out, they have other shortstops right there next to him. But in the outfield,
correct,
they have nowhere near as much going on, and there's nothing really left in free agency unless you do like a profar. But then also, you know,
but he's not playing center field is the catch.
No,
so at that point, you're going to move Judge back to center.
Yeah, or they could go with Aaron Hicks, which is a Yankees fan's worst nightmare. But one thing that Jason mentioned was that at the trade deadline they could make a move. I wonder if they're going to be a little nervous to do that because they did that last year with Frankie Montas, who comes over to New York after they trade all sorts of pitching prospects for him, and he kind of stunk up the joint. And now he's going to miss all this season, and his Yankees career is probably done. So that was their big move last year. I'm wondering if they're going to be a little bit more reserved this year and maybe not go for one of the big fish because they saw what happened last time.
I think they're going to leverage their youth. I really do. Because they do have enough youth. It's not just Volpe. They have a good pitcher. They have was it third baseman's their other guy that's really pushing for a job. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, they have Oswald Peraza, but he's also a shortstop. So that's why all these young prospects coming up kind of play the same position. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, what happens there.
Well, right now those two, Peraza and Volpe, are at the same level, and I believe Peraza is playing third.
I did not know that, but it's entirely possible.
Yeah, and it was one of those things. He had more of the arm or the accuracy, whatever it was. I can't remember, but he's been here in Rochester playing against the Rochester Red Wings with the Rail Riders from Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and he's been playing third base. So I have seen that. And
Peraza actually debuted last year, and he looked really good. And so I think he'll be first up on the tall up list. We'll just have to see where he ends up playing. Doesn't look like he played any third last year in the minors. He played
maybe it was the year before.
Just a tiny bit of second base. They got this other guy, Oswaldo Cabrera, who it was another one.
That's where I was getting at.
He was another shortstop prospect. They brought him up last year, and he played, I think it was every position in the infield and every position in the outfield. So if they're able,
Aaron Hicks can't play third base.
Yeah, right. If they're going to keep finding diamonds in the rough like that, where you can just turn one of their middle infield prospects into a super utility guy, then that's when they become really, dangerous for the Blue Jays.
Correct. They become the Tampa Bay Rays with crazy power like Judge and Stanton.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Rays with Judge and Stanton and Garrett Cole.
I'm not worried about Garrett Cole anymore. I'm not gonna lie. He can't get by the Audi sign. Just so. Anyways, so as far as spring training goes, we've had a really weird week the last week, guys. We've had literally the craziest of blowouts to we've lost the last 3 games. So I'm not terribly worried about the losing the last 3 games because it's spring training, and today was a split squad and they did win 1, so it wasn't terribly odd, but those 16-4 wins against the Phillies, the 18-5 win against the Tigers, scoring another 7 runs against the Rays last Friday. The offense appears to be clicking, and there's been all sorts of good things. How do you feel about the offensive core that would be the normal everyday 9 guys, Jason, at this point for the offense?
Overall, I'm very happy. I've been fortunate enough to watch the majority of these games, whether it's Jays in 30 or it's the actual game. It's sometimes the perks of working from home allow you to put a baseball game on and have it going in the background while you're working away. But I think that, probably the things that have surprised me the most are Addison. I mean, Addison Barger has been I don't know that he's surprised me. I kind of knew he was going to be very good. The offense has been solid. They seem to be hitting themselves out of a lot of bad situations where one of the things you like to see in spring training is if you get guys on base, hit them home. That says something to your manager. It says something to the other guys on your team that that even though it's spring training and there's 2 guys on, 2 guys out, you're going to drive one into the gap and score both runs rather than maybe trying to put one out to pad your own stats. So as a team, I've noticed that they're hitting really well in those situations and taking advantage. And I like the fact that they're not lifting their foot off the neck of their opponent. That's something that you need to have for the 100 and the season, because if you don't, you're going to lose games. You're going to give up. And that happened to the Jays last year. They're in the lead in a number of games last year that they just kind of let get away, and you never get those points back. When they're gone, they're gone.
Keep the foot on the gas, right?
Always.
Yeah. Eric, what have you thought about with the offense? Would be our normal guys to run off here opening day?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of the guys are looking good. I kind of have something up here. Kevin Kiermaier's hitting 500. Bo is at 389. Witt's at 273.
Yep.
A lot of the guys are looking good. I am really looking forward to getting a couple of these guys back in the lineup. I want to see Vladdy back. I want to get Kirk in there. Brandon Belt has been absent so far.
Yep.
I think the only concern that I've had, the only minor concern, is Dalton Varsho is kind of taking a little bit to get going. It's tough. It's tough because I love to get excited for these huge blowout wins, and then kind of just swipe off the blowout losses. But either way, it's just important to remember it's still early, and it's still early.
It's still spring.
Yeah, even next week I think is more appropriate to kind of, once you start seeing who's who. The starting 9 I think is looking really good. Kevin Biggio has looked very good, and I'm extremely impressed with him. The battle for the final bench spot is really heating up. I think Nathan Lucas has looked great. Winton Bernard has looked really good. Otto Lopez is another one, and Addison Barger. But I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm not positive that Barger will end up making the roster regardless of how well he plays, strictly because he can't be someone that he can't really rot away on the bench. So someone like him needs to be playing a lot more than just here and there. Especially if he's doing that well, and he's going to pick up some outfield to expand his versatility. As great as that is, I think he, at least to start with, needs to have a role where he can play every single day. So I think you can probably scratch him off the list. I wouldn't be stunned to see him make it, but I think someone like that especially needs to be playing every day. So
yeah, I think you might see him up a couple of times this year. I think there's a few guys that you're talking about there, Eric, that you'll see come up for not necessarily extended periods of time, but and you certainly don't want them to have to come up due to injury. But I do feel like some of those guys are good enough that when the days get long and you need a couple of guys to come in and just smash balls around, we've got some really good bats that are going to be sent down to Buffalo and eager to get back up.
Yeah. I'm going to throw something out here with Barger, because I do agree with you, Eric, that I don't think he makes this opening day roster just because of his current position in the field basis. Because otherwise, you have the equivalent of Brandon Belt, in my opinion, already sitting on the bench. So you're not putting him at first base. Barger's versatility would be if he can play left field a little bit more, and that's, like you said, what he's currently possibly building on. What I'm going to throw out here is nobody expected Chris Colabello to be one of our best offensive players in 2015.
Love Chris Colabello.
There might be all sorts of reasons for that whole thing too, but I enjoyed watching Chris Colabello here as a Rochester Red Wing in the Twins organization for years, and he was always one of our best bat-to-ball guys. Barger's got that kind of – he could steal a job if somebody got hurt and not relinquish it, where some of these other guys – I still see Otto Lopez as a role player, but we already have Santiago Espinal. I don't see him being anything other than a guy that comes and pinch runs here and there and whatnot. And I think that actually stunts his development to this, keeping him in the minor league system, things like that. I think the guy that's probably going to steal that job is Nathan Lukes to start the season. And I just think he's got the versatility, the speed, all the things you would want in a guy off the bench, and not to mention crazy great bat-to-ball skills too. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that fifth position, but that was where I was currently sitting. Or you can just, completely slam my Barger, Chris Colabello comparison, whichever way you want to go.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is that an injury can happen at any time. So it is entirely possible that Barger ends up making the opening day roster, but let me say that I don't want him to, because if he does, that means somebody that is really important is going to be out for a while.
Correct.
I like the idea of him becoming the third baseman if Matt Chapman walks. I don't really want Matt Chapman to walk, so I kind of go back and forth on that, and part of me wonders if they're trying to expand Barger's versatility because they plan on keeping Chapman around for a bit. So we'll see what happens there.
Worth the experiment at this point, right?
Yeah. I mean, the guy's a super athlete. He has one of the best throwing arms in the entire organization. So if you can get someone like that into the outfield, I don't know if I need to remind you guys, Jose Bautista came up as a third baseman, and him and his strong arm went to right field. So, who knows?
Correct.
We'll see what happens.
It happens all the time. You have to be – and that's what I find so interesting about baseball versus, so many other sports. Because, if you're a – if you're a safety and you're finishing up your college and you get drafted, you can't exactly go to the Pittsburgh Steelers and have them say, hey, we're going to get you to play wide receiver. And you're like, well, no, you're not. Because I can't do that. But baseball players.
Just to say that Tebow tried to be a tight end. Everybody remembers that, right?
Josh Donaldson comes up as a catcher. The list is really long of guys who come up and had to adapt. And I agree with you guys. If you can put Barger in the outfield, and let's be honest, how hard can it possibly be to be out there? Really,
don't say that now.
Okay, Ron Washington and Moneyball.
Yeah.
If you're a good athlete,
it's incredibly hard.
If you're a good athlete, you should be able to track baseballs. You should be able to have at least enough baseball acumen to know where to throw the ball hard. But I totally agree. And I'd love to see, hopefully if he does go down to Buffalo, they try him in the outfield a bit to try and keep that going. So it gives them the option. But yeah,
that's the depth spot that the Blue Jays don't have right now. So it would not shock me that he plays every day, especially if Otto Lopez and all these other guys are coming down to the minor leagues with him. I don't think he gets a chance to play as much third base with all the other guys. Would be my initial point. To me, I would guess if they were thinking about entertaining this, he'd split time between third base and left field just to see what happens. Track some balls in left field, see what happens. Play third base to keep comfy so you're not stressing yourself out and the bat stays alive.
Yeah, I mean, the move from third base to the outfield on a full-time basis actually happens more than people may realize. I can think of three immediately: Ryan Braun, Nick Castellanos, and Joey Gallo. All three of them were third basemen at first, and all three of them moved to the outfield. Castellanos is not really an outfielder, but Joey Gallo, I think he has 2 gold gloves. Ryan Braun performed well in left field for the Brewers, and
and 2 of those guys can hit, and one of them can't.
Yeah. I like Joey Gallo. I hope he succeeds, but it's been tough to watch so far his career,
especially with the loophole that the Red Sox pulled on him a couple of weeks ago, and there's no rule about the outfielders shifting. It's like, what the fuck? That guy can't catch a break.
Nope.
Even I hope they fix that part of the rule before opening day. But on paper, the current at the moment rule is there's nothing binding outfielders to their core position.
I don't know if there is a better power hitter in the game of baseball today than Joey Gallo. The problem is that he strikes out a ton, and then when he does make contact, it's either a home run or directly into the shift. So
correct.
Well, we'll see what happens with him,
but the shift vanishing was supposed to help him this year. And about how many, there was nobody in Major League Baseball that the shift being completely dead, outfield and infield related, that would have helped more than Joey Gallo.
Well, give it a month into the season when teams keep doing what the Red Sox did. There's going to be an addendum to the rule where you can't do that anymore either. So,
yeah, I'm honestly shocked it hasn't already kind of happened mid-spring. Just like how I'm surprised there's still a batter pitch clock. But that's a whole nother argument.
Yeah, that's true.
So, did anybody see what Max Scherzer pulled on the batter pitch clock the other night? That right there should kill the rule.
Yeah, it was.
Period.
I kind of like that Scherzer's having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Bassett
love that he's smart enough to do that. Bassett, yep.
Yeah, Chris Bassett did an interview with the Pitching Ninja. That's another one I wrote an article on. They specifically talked about Scherzer, and they were saying how of anybody in the league that'll take a new rule that is enforced and kind of mess with it as much as he can, Max Scherzer is high on that list to try and mess with it and see what he can get away with. And I think it's just going to continue because, he is Max Scherzer. That's it.
Yeah. And then not to mention, this is how we got to all the shifts and nonsense in the first place. It's like, okay, well, what is the rule? How can we squeeze it out? How can we play Moneyball? It's all these things. Everybody's looking for an edge on everybody. It's the same thing as even why you heard the Red Sox playing around with the Apple Watches and shit. There wasn't anything that verbatimly, blatantly, it was a gray area that was deemed legal, right? Illegal, I mean. So if it's not written the way you want it, and somebody that's going to try and fudge it around, there's always somebody that's smart enough in the room to find a way to skirt the rule. And that's exactly what is starting to happen already in spring training. And they should have kept it the way it was in the minor leagues and not messed with it. It still would have sped the game up. Just saying. If you want to play with more, try at the minor league level and have fun with it. And, have robo-umps and all the other stuff that's happening this year. So that we talked about some of the surprises and guys we would like to make the roster. Is there anybody that's disappointing you guys this summer or this spring so far? Eric, you had mentioned a little bit that Varsho is waiting to. You're expecting more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm by no means worried. Definitely not worried about him. I still think he's going to be a stud. I know that on the pitching side of things, there's been some rough outings, and it's hard to really make the argument because most of the guys that have struggled on the mound are ones that we already knew weren't going to make the team. I know Jose Barrios. Drew Hutchison, he was one I was going to bring up. He threw 2 2/3 today, 4 strikeouts, 2 hits, no runs. Yeah. I think he looks good, but I think of guys that
he looks good, but he's given up the most hits in Blue Jays blue so far this spring. That would be the catch.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I think for disappointments, Nate Pearson's pretty high on that list because I really, really, really was hoping to see him at Cell, and I still think he will. But right now his control has kind of been all over the place. I'm happy to see him hitting 101 on the radar gun, but when you can't control it and you're giving up hits, and it kind of adds up against you. And so I think if he continues this way, he's pitching himself out of a role for the big league bullpen this year. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to take it with as much of a grain of salt as I can. Like I said, I'll give it another week and a half until I really start to be worried or disappointed. But some of the early results, I think Nate Pearson, Jose Barrios, they kind of jump off the page as ones that aren't looking as good as I would have liked them to.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, Kikuchi's looked great. Which is awesome. I mean, you really couldn't ask for much more. I feel like Barrios is going to come out of whatever's he's. I feel like he's a little nervous right now. Like I feel like he didn't have the greatest year last year, and he's just where Kikuchi's feeling no nerves. He's just like, I'm just going to bomb this by you every time I can do it, and if I'm not gonna, I'm going to jerk the chain on it. And he looks unbelievable. And I think you brought this up earlier.
It might be the best thing that happened to Kikuchi that anybody could have happened because he has no time to think about it. Just it's the Bull Durham principle. Don't think me, just throw.
And on the offensive side, I mean, Varsho has started out slowly. I feel like Danny Jansen doesn't look probably as good as I would want him to so far. He doesn't have any home runs, if I'm correct. I think he doesn't have one yet. I know in that one game he hit the ball a couple of times pretty hard. But and also Espinal's had, 2 good games or maybe a game and a half of good sort of offense. So, I mean, we haven't seen Kirk play. So that'll be interesting. Vladdy's only had a couple of games. I thought Vladdy looked great. So, yeah, I mean, I think some of those other guys, it's nice to see Whip playing well. It's nice to see some of those guys really using camp to their advantage. But,
Biggio.
Yeah.
The guys that we need to step up, I think, are doing what we really needed them to do this spring because that now it shows we have some depth. And to your point, guys that can be flexible like Biggio and Espinal. Yeah. So those are the things that championship teams have. Just saying.
Yeah.
So the one thing I'm looking forward to more is seeing more George Springer. And I do think that his 4 hits this spring could keep moving up. You guys got the 1 home run. I'm curious to see what a full, real healthy George Springer looks like. And I've only been teased to it so far. Kind of how I feel. So we'll see.
Yeah, he hit his first Springer dinger today. So
that's a great tagline.
Yeah, Springer dinger and Biggio bomb or something like that. I think that's what I heard. So.
Biggie bomb.
Yeah.
Shout out to our old co-host M Corsair, who that was what he deemed his man crush Monday was Captain Biggio. So, but I think things are trending in the right direction. I don't think the things that we were talking about that are headaches are going to be really headaches come spring. Barrios has put the work in. I think it's, like you said, a nerves. It's right in here kind of thing, which I'm just going to say to both of you, good segue points, because we actually have a sports psychiatrist joining me on Saturday as a special guest on the show to talk about exactly that. How do you prep for a 162 game season? How do you get this right so you can be your peak performance? That is the focus of that show. So thank you for reminding me, fellas.
That's why they pay us the big bucks, Craig.
Segue points. So, but I do think there's all the things trending in the right direction to show that the Blue Jays do have all their ducks in a row for this season. And I think that you guys agree with me on that. It's just getting everything moving in the right piece here. And I think in this next week is really when we're going to finally see the lineup actually be the lineup, because this is the week that we usually start seeing the guys go to the minor league camps. We've seen the Manuel Beltres and all the other lower end guys from the very, very young Toronto Blue Jays in the spring training games at this point. The regulars are going to start playing 5 innings, 6 innings, 7 innings, not 2, 3, one time in the batting order, that kind of stuff. Same thing with the pitchers will start getting some more innings over the next week too.
Yeah,
So,
no, I mean, I think it's important to remember that the first round of roster cuts have not happened. They have started to happen around the league. I know I believe it was the Giants and the Cubs both sent, it was 10 or so guys down. So once that starts to happen, there's going to be a lot more clarity. So I anticipate that coming in the next couple days, actually. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what ends up happening there. But I think the first guys to go down are going to be the ones that are already at the bottom of the totem pole. So,
yeah.
Is there anybody out of that like tipping point guys that you guys think should get a chance to maybe face some major league guys over the next few weeks? And Jason, I'm sorry if I cut you off. You go ahead and finish your thought first.
I was just getting, my thought is that, one of the things that people have to keep in mind, and I feel like over the years, a lot of stock gets put into preseasons for all of the sports, and the teams are using this for development. The teams are using this to take their kids that they know aren't going to be playing and try and develop them, try and get them against some major league pitching, trying to get into some interesting situations that they may not see, commonly in the minors. So, that was just something I wanted to get out because I feel like a lot of times people put a lot of pressure on, the fact that the Jays are 6-5. Well, nobody gives a shit. Like, I mean, come on.
I didn't look at that record.
Well, a perfect example of trying to get some of the young guys in there is Ricky Tiedemann. He's not going to make the opening day roster, but it's good that he's getting into some innings against big league players, so he's getting to kind of get his feet wet and see what he can expect. Because while I don't think he's going to make the opening day roster, I do think that there's a really high probability that we see him later this season.
Yeah.
So it's good to kind of get him into some, high pressure situations early on, even though it is just spring training. He's never faced a Javier Baez or a Carlos Santana or Andrew McCutchen before. So it's good to get him some innings against guys like that.
Yeah. And I do think that he's one of those guys that won't be involved in this first round of cuts. I think he's one of those guys that won't be on that list. Yeah. Is there anybody else that you would like to see, like a Ricky Tiedemann, not be cut at this point? I have one if you want me to kick this off.
Yeah.
I want to see more of LJ Talley's nice swing for a little bit longer this spring. That first home run he hit in the first at bat, I actually saw him live on TV. I've read good things about him and his wonderful swing over the last few years, and it was really cool to see. And I'd love to see what he can do with a few more games. He's only gotten 10 at bats, but he's gotten 3 hits, and one of those was a home run at this point.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. I actually am of the belief that he will be in the first round of roster cuts because I don't think there's really a possibility here of him making the opening day roster. And as they kind of try and shape the opening day roster and get guys who are on the bubble more at bats and more innings, I think he's one that's not quite there right now. So we'll see. I mean, if there's one guy that I know that won't start the year on the big league roster, but deserves more of a shot, is a minor league catcher that we signed, Rob Brantley. He's kind of a weak hitting journeyman. He's been around the league for like 10, 15 years in the minors. And I mean, he's a decent bat, but he's really, really good with the pitchers. And I've actually read quite a few things positive so far about how the pitchers really, really like him. And I heard that he is to be viewed as catcher number 3 in the organization. So should something happen to Jansen or Kirk, knock on wood, someone like him who the pitchers have been really, really, really liking will, be the first one to get a call up. So,
yeah, funny enough, has 5 hits this spring.
Yeah, so he's looked great, and he does one hell of a job with the pitching staff, and that's why he's been with so many different teams over the years. And it's not because teams don't want him; it's because teams do want him. He's just not quite a major league contributor, but I think he's great with the staff.
He's stuck in that quadruple A format.
Correct.
Yeah.
Jason?
For me, I mean, selfishly, I'd like to see Barger stay. I'd like to see it. For some reason, I really like the high kick. I really like just he swings like such a savage. So that's my selfish pick.
Lefty Boba.
Yeah, for the team, I've liked Nathan Lukes the whole way through. I think he's looked very good. I think he's played very well in the outfield. He tracks the ball he tracks the ball unbelievably well. And I know he's a little bit older, but I'd like to see him be given his fair shake to try and to see if he might be that extra guy that we need. He's got good speed. It looks like he covers the outfield well. I've seen him play center and left, I think. Maybe just center. I can't remember. But anyways, I like him, and I think that he's got a solid bat and a good arm, and so he's got all the tools that you want to have. At least see them against some of the better pitching in the league.
Yeah, agree with you 100%. So, gentlemen, that's the hour mark, and I think we had a wonderful talk this evening. Is there anything either of you would like to talk about before I give Eric his wonderful shameless self-promoting bit?
I think we just about covered it. I'm looking forward to seeing things progress here, and I'm just getting excited for opening day, man. It's this month. It's coming up.
Yep. It's coming. So this is your shameless self-promoting bit. Tell everybody where they can find your work and find you on Twitter and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm the only editor over at Jays Journal. That's where you can find all my stuff. I do some writing for fansided.com as well, kind of covering some other sports outside of baseball. So you can find me over there. Otherwise, I'm predominantly over at Jays Journal. My Twitter handle is attached to my little face there at eTroyden. Always looking to engage more with readers, and I'm kind of building more of a fan base on Twitter. So I'm looking to make more friends. So I'm always available, and I appreciate all the readers and all the support. It's been a really solid couple months since I joined the team. So it's been going well, and I appreciate all of you. Yeah.
Awesome. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, Eric. And obviously being Jays Journal associated, we love contributing, working with you. We did get a couple of comments tonight that I want to make sure I just say thank you, Sharon McLaughlin, that we also would love to have an awesome Jose Bautista bat flip photo in our hallway every morning. Just saying. So, but until next week, Blue Jays fans, make sure you catch us on all of our social media at Birdwatching GC. We are the official podcast of the Toronto Blue Jays for jaysjournal.com and Fansided. Make sure you find out our work on jaysjournal.com. I'm once again writing, Craig Gordon again. You can find my review for if you're going to spring training. We got some wonderful places you can visit from the benefit of my knowledge of being a visitor down there. We have our Vancouver native Jason Lyons clearly doing some weird hand gestures. Am I forgetting something?
No. I was just when you're self-promoting, I like to point to you. So the people, if the people are scoring at home, then they know which square to go to on their bingo card.
Good deal. There it is. So if you didn't have a chance to join in the chat on our live show this evening, make sure you join us for, like I mentioned, we have a special show this Saturday at 12:30 Eastern time, or where our guest, Dr. Jenna Ross, is from. It will be Mountain Time because she lives in Arizona. Make sure you join us. That's 10:30 her time. We are going to be talking about the mental side of the baseball and how you can get peak performance out of your mental game. That's kind of what the issue is, and we're going to talk about it. And just, hey, we're prepping for a 162-game season. Us podcasters got to get in the right mindset too, just saying. So until next week, catch us on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasting pleasures from. And fellas, it's time for that 2 claps and a Ric Flair and a Let's Go Blue Jays. 3, let's go. Let's go Blue Jays.
Thank you for listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch at Birdwatching GC, and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go. Woo!